Standing on the tall bridge and bathing in the colorful neon lights, I am embracing this magical moment where nature is taking over. Jellyfishes are swimming slowly across the sky, perfectly in harmony with the blooming trees. Let's hold the grandness and the raw beauty of nature dear to our heart. Hey, what's up everyone? Welcome back to Apollo Art Analysis. This episode I'm going to be taking a look at a piece by the career illustrator known as Donglu Yu. And in this episode, we're going to be talking about kind of diverse color. We're going to talk about positive perspectives on the cyberpunk realm, and then we're going to talk about the extreme necessity of preserving our natural world. So let's jump right into it. So whenever you first see this piece, you're met with this flood of intense color. Of course, just an incredibly diverse spatial composition as almost every color of the spectrum is displayed here. Of course, here you have the foundation of kind of like that blue, and that blue morphs into more of a gold, yellowish, and then green up in the left tones here. So just a very diverse spatial composition, very diverse color. It even mimics the biodiversity of our natural world if you want to go and draw that connection as well. So notice a grand sense of scale within the spatial composition. This really kind of mimics the grand scale of the natural world as well, as we are just individuals set in juxtaposition against the giant globe. So we also see a small subject here, of course. This really gives us that unique sense of scale as we see just how small our subject is in common comparison to the very large spatial composition. I think this might be the largest piece I've ever seen in the context of like scale because just so small compared to this massive scene right here before us. So that really introduces us to the divine degrees of nature and all of the priceless points present within this work here. And so you also see, of course, this really intense light, this very vibrant, very vivid light. It kind of awakens the viewer almost like our sacred sun. Whenever you see that sunlight, it just awakens you instantly. And the natural world is really good at that. And so you see the energy moving throughout the spatial composition as well. Of course, there's almost no straight lines within this piece. Of course, we have kind of the bridge here, but just constant curves, that morph and that flow throughout the spatial composition. It really implies an incredible sense of motion here within the work before us. And so the artist actually created all of these natural motifs in order to mimic the biodiversity of our natural world. There's an incredible mix of diverse animals, diverse plants, and just diverse life in general. And whenever we're looking at this, it really reminds us of that. Of course, you see those natural flowing motifs really has that natural energy present throughout each pixel of this priceless piece. And that energy really kind of awakens and it invigorates and even energizes the visual experience for the viewer there. And so we see normally whenever you take a look at the science fiction subgenre known as cyberpunk, it's normally a very, very dark piece. We see it on kind of a dark aesthetic. Cyberpunk is normally seen as kind of the loss of the individual to the kind of surveillance state or a dystopian society. But what's interesting here is that Donglu Yu decides to kind of throw those negative notions of cyberpunk straight out the window, and instead we have an incredibly positive and incredibly energetic and lively piece of art here. So instead of depicting the cyberpunk genre here with this very dark aesthetic, you see just an immensely colorful spatial composition, very energetic, very bright, and of course, as a result, a very positive visual experience. So I thought that was a pretty unique take on the traditionally dystopian or negative cyberpunk genre there, and I think it's a very masterful display of that. And so we also see some pretty priceless notes on the kind of natural divine world. The divine world, of course, it births, it cultivates, it destroys, and it even rebirths life all within the same cyclical breath. And so, if you don't think nature is divine, well, go in the middle of nature for a few hours, and I promise you'll come back with an entirely different perspective. And so this piece really proves that kind of natural divinity. Of course, that sense of scale feels divine, but that sense of color also feels divine, and just it immerses you straight within like she said, the biodiversity of our natural world, and it does a very stunning a masterful job at that. And so this piece was actually made in collaboration with World of Women NFT as well as Code Green. And both of those partnered with an airport called VINCI Airports. And this piece will actually be displayed in about 20 different airports across the globe. So, the great thing about digital art is we can translate it from screen to screen to screen. So this is going to be displayed in, about 20 or more airports across the world. And it's really going to prove to the viewers the biodiversity and the importance of preserving our natural world. And so this piece is really meant to kind of draw awareness to the fact that we need to preserve the world, and that we should, we can't destroy nature without, by definition, hurting ourselves as well, because we are all part of this cyclical process, and we are not disconnected from that in any way. And so I think that's really important, and it's an incredible collaboration between World of Women, Code Green, and VINCI Airports. They chose one of the best artists that they could for this, the career illustrator Donglu Yu. We first showcased her in April of 2021. Really, really stunning works coming from this artist, and it's just a blessing to be able to study them. So now we're going to take a look at one of her other works that we've showcased, and we see what we can learn and kind of draw from her stylistic profile. Now, before we look at that, I actually just wanted to take a quick note of that intro that I started off with. This is a direct quote from the original artist, so she wanted this to be straight alongside the piece, which is why I opened with it, but we're going to revisit that real quick. So, standing on the tall bridge and bathing in the colorful neon lights, I'm embracing this magical moment where nature is taking over. Jellyfishes are swimming slowly across the sky, perfectly in harmony with the blooming trees. Let's hold the grandness and the raw beauty of nature dear to our heart. And so I wanted to just read that because it really characterizes this piece. So now we're going to take a look at the final work, one of her past works, and we're going to see what we can learn from it. All right, so here on the right, we have the Reaching Up piece by Donglu Yu. And on the left, we have, I believe it's called Night City by Donglu Yu as well. And so there's a few different things I wanted to talk about. First, you'll see the intensity of light in both of these work. Donglu Yu really works with light and magic as if it's simply second nature, and she really immerses the viewer within such an incredible visual experience. She definitely likes cyberpunk art, so it's been interesting to see how that evolves over time. Oh, didn't want to make a note. So like we said in this one, it's a really positive cyberpunk aesthetic. Normally cyberpunk is seen as dark and dystopian and, terrifying, but the very positive perspective of the cyberpunk genre here. And then let's compare that to, say, this piece on the left. And the piece on the left here really, I think it characterizes that kind of dark dystopian aesthetic really well. And so putting both of these pieces in juxtaposition next to one another, you really see the difference. A very positive take on the cyberpunk genre, and then compared to a much more traditional kind of dystopian take on the cyberpunk genre. Both are digital illustrations or digital paintings coming straight from Donglu Yu, and she works with light and magic as if it's simply second nature. So I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope you guys learned something. We talked a little bit about diverse color. We talked about positive perspectives on the cyberpunk realm. And we also talked about the biodiversity of our natural world. Go check out Donglu Yu's other works, and I hope you guys get a chance to see this in one of the VINCI airports, one of the 20 VINCI airports across the globe. So hope you guys enjoyed. My name is Apollo. This was Apollo Art Analysis, and I'll see you guys on the next episode.
We hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you'd like to support our work directly, please check out our Apollo community tokens. Apollo Art Exchange is an ecosystem of art appreciation which elevates artists each and every day. Thanks for listening.